Thank you, right.
Are you suggesting that someone's trying to make a real-life sequel?
Stab 2? Who'd want to do that? Sequels suck.
Two in the box!
Ready to go.
We be fast and
They be slow.
Wow. A second Super Saiyan? Second in order, perhaps, but by no means in stature. Your fight is with me now.
I'll have my revenge, and Deathstalker too.
Man, I can't fucking believe this. Another basement, another elevator. How can the same shit happen to the same guy twice?
Oh, please, please. By definition alone, they're inferior films.
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Inside the Sequel, the podcast where we talk about sequel movies that don't get enough love or attention. And yeah, I'm so excited. I'm your host, as always, Chris Hurtado, and I'm excited because today's episode is on a sequel I've been wanting to talk about for a long time, and I think it's super timely that it's coming out now. But today we are talking about the 2006 release of the 1980 sequel, Superman 2. And we're talking about the Richard Donner cut from 2006.
The three villains from Krypton have taken over the White House.
No. Kneel before sword.
Metropolis is almost in ruins. And Superman has lost his powers. Or has he? As the adventure continues in Superman 2, rated PG. Now playing. Check newspapers for local listing.
And I'm super excited for this because I have a first-time guest on, known as the Cinema Drunkie, which at one point when I started podcasting, I thought I would take that title. And after a few recordings in my time, I'm like, he can have that. I'm good. I have Rob from the Cinema Drunkies podcast. Rob, how are you, my guy?
I'm good, Chris. Thank you for having me on. Really excited to be here. Been a big fan of your show for a while now, so I'm just especially excited to talk about anything Superman. So I'm glad you asked me to be a part of this one.
Yeah, whenever it's full disclosure, when I message people to be like on a podcast, I usually give a few recs that I'd like to talk about, and then I ask them what's something they really want to talk about instead. And usually that's the case, or there's another option. Superman 2 is always one that I always throw out there, and I never get any bites on that. Really? And yeah, I mean, it's like I grew up on the Christopher Reeve Superman movies, and
as did I.
Yeah, good. And part of like, it's obviously very obvious on this podcast, I have some toxic traits. So it was like the Christopher Reeve Superman movies, and my toxic trait was I was also growing up watching the Bryan Singer X-Men movies. And I think as time has gone on, I probably should be like, oh, Bryan Singer and his movies are awesome. I mean, I love the guy's stuff. And I'm like, well, I just yeah. But the funny thing was, I never paid attention to like, the versions of Superman 2 that I was watching on TV, because there's two different versions and they're pretty different. And it's the world of director's cuts, like ultimate cuts, I mean, Superman 2 kind of set the precedent, I feel like, on that.
Yeah, you definitely in this day and age of director's cuts where everybody's clamoring for, like, you hear that there's alternate footage of a movie, everybody's clamoring for that director's cut. Of course, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention Zack Snyder's Justice League, which is probably the most famous tale of the director's cut, where like that. But definitely, the Donner cut set the precedent for that. Where it was just like because you had Ridley Scott's director's cut of Blade Runner, you had James Cameron's director's cut of The Abyss, but this was the first time where it was just like the footage actually changed the whole tone of the movie. And it was just like almost like two different movies, even though it's like it's the same beats, but it's just two completely different things. And yeah, Donner Cut definitely set precedent for that.
Yes, sir. And I'm glad, yeah, because you were just like Superman 2. I felt like I gave you a beefy list, and you're like Superman 2, and I
Oh, it
got
was
a chub.
immediate. It was immediately Superman 2. Like you said a lot of good titles, but the first one that hit my eye was Superman 2. Because Superman is my all-time favorite superhero.
I'm with you
All-time
there.
favorite comic book character. So the minute I saw that, yeah, Superman 2. I definitely got I want to talk Superman.
Good. And Rob, I think most people know about what you do on podcasting. You do the Cinema Drunkies podcast. You've been on Schlock and All. You're in this Discord chat where it's like Superman and Friends, where we just kind of chill out in a Discord chat and talk about the state of podcasting. And then you also do the Statham podcast as well. I mean, you're just constantly busy guy, but for those who maybe haven't checked out your work, I mean, can you talk about that a little bit? Like you're like, you're called the Cinema Drunkie, which is honestly super cool. And I like it a lot. Yeah. But like, tell some of these younger peeps that are like, who's the Cinema Drunkie? Does he actually drink on the podcast? He's already had like his third gin and tonic in front of me unrecorded. Like this guy is plastered.
Yes. I am the Cinema Drunkie. That definitely came from the whole thing. I mean, it's a double entendre. It means that I'm drunk off cinema, but also I am literally drunk as I but yeah, I just out there doing my thing with the Cinema Drunkies. We're on hiatus right now as I figure some things out, but we'll be coming back shortly. Wrath of Stave will be coming out shortly. I just got to stop being lazy and edit the episodes I already did recorded before I start releasing them. I know I got you pegged for a guest appearance on that one, and we'll definitely get to that. I also, in the meantime, put out a new podcast that I got going on called "You Could Have Been a Blood Fist Movie," where we discuss action movies and then we will break down with whether, without as little changes as possible, could it have been a part of the Blood Fist series of movies that starred martial arts action icon Don the Dragon Wilson? I'm really excited about that because I literally came up with that idea for that podcast as a joke, and then the more I thought about it, the more I fell in love with the idea, and I'm like, yeah, I'm doing this. I'm doing this. We have one episode out right now. It's done really well so far. That episode. I had some family issues to take care of in the meantime, so I haven't been able to record new episodes yet, but I will shortly get some on there. We've got some people, amazing people already lined up to do that, and yeah. And beside that, I do reviews on the side, like I write reviews for multitude of sites like ultimateactionmovies.com, Film Combat Syndicate, and like yeah, that's just my thing. I just like talking about movies and just being out there. That's always been my thing ever since I was a kid, just talking about movies.
Oh, dude, when I listen to your podcast, and I've listened to the Wrath of Statham podcast a little bit, and I like it too. I never thought that I would like be involved with people who are such action movie fans and buffs, like martial arts action movies. And because like honestly, the only action movies I was growing up watching were really just like Kung Pao and like Last Action Hero. Like those were like my two big action movies growing up, and like sci-fi.
Yeah.
So it's like it's like Michael Scott. I guess Matt Bledsoe is kind of his own like action junkie fan too. And and you're doing all these other works, which I think are really cool. Like, I think it's hard enough. Like, I totally get the hiatus and stuff with podcasting. But you like manage other podcasts and stuff. It's like, I mean, if I were going to start another podcast, it'd probably be called like the Porn Supremacy, where I just talk about like porn parody movies, honestly, and I would just host it with Anthony King maybe and Michael Scott, and we just get drunk and talk about Pirates 2 Stagnetti's Revenge, because I just can't get away from sequel movies.
Yeah. Mike is a really big fan of that.
I need to see his Letterboxd review of it before I ever ask him to be on that one. But I'm really excited to see what more you're going to do with podcasting. But I'm mostly excited because even though we're in the same Discord chat and we talk and we have mutual friends and stuff like that, I actually have never known. What are your thoughts on sequels, my guy? Like, you're the first time guest per tradition on this podcast. I got to ask, like, are you a fan of sequel movies? I mean, do you have some favorites of you, like you want to shout out, or defend, or if you absolutely hate them, you're just doing this as a courtesy? Mutual respect, man. I mean,
oh, sure. I love sequels. I absolutely love sequels. I've been a fan of sequels. Like, when you're a kid, like me growing up, like you see a film and you love it. When's part 2? Like, I'm still clamoring for Tango and Cash 2, which we're probably no. Yeah. Stallone wants to do it, but I know Kurt Russell's like, dude, we're so old. Let's just not. But yeah, I love sequels. Like, favorites. Do I have any favorites? Like, I'm a big defender of Halloween 4. Halloween 4 is one of my all-time favorite sequels, as well as Phantasm 2 is a sequel. I would go with Evil Dead 2, of course. You gotta throw it in. That's one of the greatest sequels ever. Sequels I hate will always be Halloween 5. I hate that movie. I loathe that movie with a vengeance. I did a podcast, Sledgehammer Horror. My friend Kenny Sledge, he's got a show called My First Horror Movie, and unfortunately, Halloween 5 was actually my first horror film. And yeah. Like, I saw it when I was 5, and I was like, "Oh, this is great." And then I watched it as an adult. I'm like, "Oh my god, this is the worst fucking thing I've ever seen." And I completely eviscerated it. I'm more than happy to eviscerate Halloween 5 on any show if anyone asks me. So if you hate Halloween 5 and you just want to talk shit about it, call me because I love shitting on that movie. I hate that movie so much. Also,
wait, Rob, are you one of those blokes who like bought the Halloween 5 Scream Factory Deluxe Edition that recently came out too?
No.
So you do have self-respect. Okay.
Yeah. Everybody was like, "Oh, but they got that new footage. What was it? The Dr. Death or whatever it is." I don't care. I do not care. I don't care what footage they find in that. I'm never watching that fucking thing. I rewatched it for that show, and I was just like, damn you for making me rewatch this movie again because I hate it. Speed 2 is another one I hate.
Speed 2. That's what I'm trying to like work up the courage because I love the first Speed movie, but it's like I don't know if I need to watch the second, but you don't. You absolutely do not need to watch it. It's awful. Me and my co-host on Cinema Drunkie, my brother from another Mac the All-Star, he hates that movie too because Speed is one of his all-time favorite movies, and we talked about Speed 2 on there, and we just completely blew it to shreds. And what's funny is that during our first season, we talked about Speed because Speed is both me and his one of our all-time favorite movies. And we talked about Speed 2 for 5 minutes and how much we hated it. And people liked that episode, but they enjoyed the 5 minutes we talked about Speed 2. Like, yeah, you should do a whole episode. And we're like, we don't want to. We absolutely don't want to. But everybody was just like, no, you should do it. You should do it. And we're like, fine, here it is. Now leave us the fuck alone. Sounds like a Doug McCambridge episode I usually record with him. That's awesome, man. Like, I don't know. Like, yeah, Halloween 5. I mean, part of this podcast was because I love horror movies, and obviously there's so many freaking crazy sequels and stuff like that. But I mean, this would be a good Twitter question to answer. What was like the first sequel movie like you remember watching? Because like for me, it's like 2 different movies. The first one is Nightmare on Elm Street 1 and 2. Like, well, I guess it's 3 movies, but it's Nightmare 1 and 2. Like I watched them in the same day. I remember when my mom put it on. And the second one, oddly enough, I can't remember if it was Scarecrow, like Lester the Scarecrow, like this early 2000s movie, or it was the Blair Witch Project 2, Book of Secrets or whatever.
Yeah.
Because, fuck my childhood. So and that's everything you need to know about this podcast. That's the origin roots. But no, man. So, I mean, you talk about like you like action movies, like horror movies too. I mean, do you remember like growing up, you said you're from Brooklyn and stuff,
Yeah.
right? I mean, what was
Mhm.
that like with movies? Like, I can only imagine like I mean, I grew up in the Midwest in Northern Illinois, and like the theaters we had were like a $5 Tuesdays theater and like a big chain AMC. And that was about it. But we hoarded everything at Family Video. That's just how we did. I mean, what was it like for you with like movies? I love asking first time guests like how do you what was movies for you? Like, why do you love them?
Well, I was fortunate enough to grow up with two parents who were big movie fans, especially my dad. Um, my father, he loves movies. He had a big VHS collection that I would just go through and just watch movies. Also, I grew up in the Bushwick section of Brooklyn, and the neighborhood I grew up in was a pretty big uh like film fan kind of neighborhood. Like we had a local theater, Ridgewood Movie Theater. It's now closed, unfortunately. But it was in pretty much walking distance to like few blocks where we could walk there. And when I was able to, they would allow me to. My parents go to the movies by myself. I was at the theater every week, seeing whatever. So I was free to watch whatever I want. My parents didn't really like uh kind of like keep me from watching any like the stuff if it was like stuff like concerning like nudity and all that stuff. Like I always mention this, but I always found it weird that they had concerns of me watching stuff like Natural Born Killers and all kind of movies, but they were perfectly fine with me watching like RoboCop and Total Recall. And I couldn't watch sex or boobs, but it was perfectly fine for me to watch Alex Murphy get eviscerated by shotguns. just it was just the weirdest thing. Like they didn't have no problem with that, but yes, boobies were a no. So
That's so
that's
awesome.
yeah, that's why I have a particular thing for movies with like that just have bloody action in it. So because like mom and pop were always just like, yeah, I want to watch RoboCop. Yeah, sure, we'll put on RoboCop for you. I want to watch Showgirls. No, you can't watch Showgirls, but RoboCop is fun.
Yeah, you were honestly Paul Verhoeven's like target audience. Like he tried to reel you all in young. Is probably what
Yeah.
it was.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
You know, I love when people like, especially like Matt Bledsoe. Now that I'm thinking about, which is funny, you and Matt Bledsoe had very crazy childhoods where you were growing up watching RoboCop and he was growing up watching Blade. I'm assuming you dressed up like Alex Murphy in RoboCop as he dressed up as Blade as a kid.
No, like I never actually dressed up like Alex Murphy. Probably dressed up like RoboCop for like.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting because like when Daniel was a kid, I'm pretty sure he like loved Batman as a kid, and he dressed up like as the Joker, and he loved Dracula. He dressed up like Dracula, and like when I was a kid, I dressed up like Freddy Krueger. I dressed up like Aragorn from Lord of the Rings. I dressed up as a simp one year too because I like simps. And I think it's just so cool. Like the movies we watch, we kind of like to mimic as a kid, and they kind of like influences our tastes when we grow up.
Mm-hmm.
Which is funny. And I get always so jealous of people like you and Matt Bledsoe and others who grew up watching RoboCop, because RoboCop's one of those movies now where it has a place in my heart because I just watched it in the last year or two for the first time ever. And I watched all three, and it's like, that's one of those few goated trilogies, man, where it's like, I'm just kind of like,
you watched RoboCop 3?
I own RoboCop 3 on Scream Factory.
Oh man. That's me and Mac discussed RoboCop 2. Well, we discussed RoboCop in the first season, and then the last episode we did before we went on hiatus was actually RoboCop 2. And we discussed on there that we never, no matter how many people beg, we will never talk about RoboCop because we dislike that movie so much.
RoboCop 3 is the one where it's kind of like, okay, like we're done, you know. But I do have it on Scream Factory slipcover, so you know, for those boutique label guys who like buying the movies and never watching it, I got it with the slipcover. but yeah, RoboCop totally cool. I grew up watching Terminator and Predator. I'm just a big Arnold guy growing up. But
Oh yeah,
I mean, who wasn't, right? So it's
yeah,
turning.
absolutely.
It's like Mike Scott right now. It's like, all right, cool. Now where's the Donnie Yen talk? And you know,
Nah, I feel that.
but so you talked about how Superman's your favorite comic book character and it's your favorite superhero. What was it with Superman that was that for you? Because I mean, I had a hunch, but I wasn't sure. But like, Superman's your favorite superhero. Superman is my favorite superhero too, and it's mostly because the Christopher Reeves movies. It's outside of that, maybe the animated series, and then Brandon Roth. That was my big thing growing up. What was this for Superman for you? Because usually, when I talk to a lot of people, and it's when it comes to superheroes, it's either like Wolverine or it's like Batman. You know, you don't get too many Supermans. You know, I mean, at least not anymore. I feel like.
Yeah, I grew up like that too. You know, loving Superman, and I will always get into it with kids whose like favorite character was like Spider-Man. Superman sucks. Spider-Man is better. In fifth grade, I was in there with a bunch of boys who love Spider-Man and Nova, and and Nova, who's a Marvel Comics character. Like I never understood, and it was just like when I found out, I was like, "You mean this guy who's just discount Green Lantern is who y'all sitting there thinking is better than Superman?" Okay, whatever. Let me just leave that alone. You know, open a big can of worms, and I'm just going to
just talk about your childhood bullying really quickly on the podcast.
Yeah, totally. Like I got bullied for loving Superman.
You know what's funny? I oddly relate to that because there was this kid in my class in fifth grade who was constantly bragging about how cool Spider-Man was, and it's only because Spider-Man's sarcastic.
Yeah. Like I think it's like the big difference between two characters is that Spider-Man is like I like to call a perfectly imperfect character where he's just like instantly relatable, because he deals with these kind of hardships, juggling his job and his superhero career and his love life, school, and you can relate to that, Whereas Superman, he's like the perfect superhero. He's righteous, he's all good, and he has all the powers. Flight, super strength, super speed. He's got heat vision. He's got that cold breath of his. He's got super hearing, and that's the kind of hero you aspire to be. You aspire to be Superman. Like if anybody had real superpowers, they'd most likely end up like Spider-Man, just like completely fucked up in life. But you aspire to be Superman, because Superman is perfect in every way. There's nothing flawed about him. Like whether it's just his character or his abilities, he's just a perfect hero. And just I think that's what I and his fans love about him. It's just that he's just perfect. Like he's the guy you want to be if you were ever a superhero yourself. And I dreamed of being a superhero. As a kid, I dressed up as Superman many times for Halloween as a kid. Like I had so many versions of Superman costume over the years, from like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, whatever. I was Superman so many times for Halloween. It's just because that's the guy I want to be. I want to be Superman, and yeah, that's the best way I could put it. He's a flawless superhero, and he's the guy you want to be, like if you were ever a superhero yourself. And yeah, he's perfect. I mean, in my opinion.
No, I agree. I mean, he fights for truth, justice, in the American way. I mean, his costume getup is awesome. I think Superman's more fascinating as you get older because, like, you can see other things that you wouldn't notice as a kid. Like he's an alien, but he's defending, the good of people and fighting for all these great things. And in some, especially in the world we live in today, we could use some sort of like Superman, like this, like you said, perfect being who knows right from wrong, and helps people And honestly, I love Henry Cavill's Superman, and I love the Snyderverse and everything in that sense. A lot of great fan service and good, Superman moments. And in the animated series, the voice actor for Superman was cool, and I like the portrayal of that Superman.
Yeah.
But like Christopher Reeves kind of embodies like that whole sense of who Superman is when he portrays Superman in those first 4 movies.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's kind of like when you watch Rocky. I don't know, it's weird. Like Stallone is like the perfect Rocky. Like he's the perfect underdog, and you root for him, and he comes from and he becomes a champ, and he's good-hearted, good intentioned, and still all these good things happen to him. It's kind of like that with Superman too. Like, I mean, Christopher Reeves portrays him as like this flawless being who like, knows what's right from wrong and understands like middle America and, in an old traditional sense in that way.
Yeah.
And I've always kind of liked that. I don't know why. I always have. Rewatching the first 2 movies for this podcast. I mean, some things didn't age as well as I'd hope, but like there's some things where it's like, man, I can't imagine superhero movies today having anything like what's in Superman 1 and 2. And I think it's sorely missed in some capacities. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, most definitely. Yeah. I definitely agree with you that there are 1 or 2 things that have not aged well, like things I have a problem with, especially in Superman 2. I have issues with one particular scene, which I'm pretty sure we'll get to during the course of this discussion. But
we're talking. Oh, go ahead.
No, like, but with Christopher Reeve, it's just like where it's like there've been so many good portrayals of Superman over the years, in the course of his existence. Especially like, not just live action, but the animated, like you mentioned, the Superman animated series. Tim Daly is his portrayal of Superman fantastic. I particularly like everyone, like even Dean Cain. Like people shit on Dean Cain. Like I don't think he's particularly good Superman. Like I feel like he doesn't have like an authoritative presence when he's in the suit, but he's a damn good Clark Kent. Like I will go to bat for Dean Cain's Clark Kent. He's an absolutely fantastic Clark Kent. Also wanted to mention Kirk Alyn, who was the first live action Superman, because people always seem to forget Kirk Alyn. He plays Superman in the Adventures of Superman serials.
I did. I forgot.
Yeah, like people always seem to forget to mention Kirk Alyn. I'm just like, he played Superman. How could you forget? Because everybody always just goes to George Reeves. And I love George Reeves. I love that show, The Adventures of Superman show from the 50s. And but with Christopher Reeve, he just set the precedent for where it's like this is where we go from here, because he was the first one to differentiate between Clark and Superman, because the issue with a lot of Superman portrayals before then was that there was no real difference between Clark and Superman, because Clark is the alter ego, like as he's the mild-mannered reporter from Daily Planet, and Superman is basically who he really is, kind of per se. Christopher Reeve was the first one where he showed there's a difference, where he's kind of like meekish, clumsy, nerd, if you will, and like Superman, he's this all right, character. And like there's that wonderful scene after like his flight with Lois in the first Superman, where after he returns to the place and he comes back as Clark, and she goes to get changed so him and Lois could go out. And when she goes into the room, like he's got the the drop shoulders and like, come on Lois, we got to go out to our date. And when she leaves, he just stands straight up and takes off the glasses, and it's just like that's literally all he did was just stand up straight. But like you see the complete difference in the two portrayals of, it's the same guy, but like he's playing two different personas of this one individual, and it's a wonderful thing. And that like that moment right there is what set the precedent for like all Superman portrayals to follow, where you just like it's one guy, but they're two different personas. They're two different people, in the sense of like like he was the first person to make you believe why people can't figure out that this is the same guy, because everybody's always like, oh, he's just wearing a pair of glasses. How could they not tell? Well, look how Christopher Reeve do it. Like you look at him as Clark, and it's like, well, this guy can't be Superman. He's just a or schmo, you know. Like look at him, he's a dweeb. But like it's just wonderful. It's this wonderful thing, and it's just like he kind of ruined it for everyone portraying Superman afterwards, because everybody's like, well, you're good, but you're not as good as Christopher Reeve, you know. And it's just that's the mark he made, like, you know, where everyone else before him is obsolete and everyone after him bears his mark, you know. And that's the beauty of Christopher Reeve's portrayal as Clark Kent and Superman.
Yeah, I agree, dude. He just fits the suit so well, and he plays both roles so well too. Henry Cavill is an awesome Superman. I love Man of Steel.
Yes.
But like, what's his Clark Kent? You know, it just really isn't one.
Yeah, I think, not to cut you off, but I think with Henry Cavill is that, well, more or less with Snyder's portrayal is that they're mostly focusing on Kal-El, you know, like who Superman essentially really is. He's Kal-El from The Last Son of Krypton. And it's more about him and, like, you know, and almost like Superman and Clark take a back seat to like the portrayal of Kal-El as a character, because they want to because the biggest problem with Superman as a character that most people have, that I've seen being a fan of him for so long, is that they find him unrelatable because he's so good, you know, because he's so pure. It's just like they kind of find that no pun intended, alienating. In a way, it's just like I can't get into this guy because he's not flawed. So I think what Snyder was doing was trying to bring him, like, we all want to be Superman, and this is Superman being us, being a flawed human character, you know, who just have like the weight of the world on their shoulders. And I had no problem with that portrayal. Like a lot of people obviously did. You know, they're still fucking ripping Man of Steel to shreds. But I had no problem with that. You know, simply because Superman has been a character for like 80 something years now, like however long Superman's been out. And it's like we've seen him portrayed one particular way for all those years. Like it's nice to see a differentiation of him from every now and then, instead of just seeing him just as the same big blue Boy Scout. So I had no problem with Henry Cavill as Superman at all.
No, I didn't either. I like that Man of Steel movie a lot. Like, I know I think a lot of people have problems with that one, but yeah, I mean, I have a Henry Cavill figure. Like, I like that. I mean, I wish I still kept my childhood Brandon Roth figure I had as well, but yeah, you're totally right. I think Superman 78, I really like. It's a different type of superhero movie. But like, I mean, some parts of it doesn't age well. It's a little cheesy, quote unquote, but it's a little corny, like people say, but I still like it. I like the origin aspects of it.
Yeah.
I think it's a mess at the end, mostly because of production reasons, if anything else.
Yeah.
I don't blame the movie for it. And also Marlon Brando saying Krypton is awesome. You know, like you get Russell Crowe, I mean, which is great in the Snyderverse, but like Marlon freaking fucking Brando is in this movie, and Gene Hackman. Mind you, it's Marlon Brando, then Gene Hackman, and then Christopher Reeve, who's the lead in this movie, is how the title card goes for the introductions. Like, that's unheard of, I feel like, in movies now. It's always the star lead, you know, but like Marlon Brando, who's just a floating head most of the time. And then Gene Hackman, who's, I mean, for the main villain, he's hardly in these movies. It's crazy.
Yeah. Like, and plus Marlon Brando got top billing, and he's only in it for like 10 minutes. Well, I would say 15 minutes, because you do have the floating head.
Yeah.
And Gene Hackman, because, you know, Gene Hackman, huge star at that time, just won not too long ago, prior to that, won the Oscar for the French Connection. And you know, Christopher Reeve was an unknown, so it was like, yeah, we're not going to put this unknown guy above Marlon Brando, Gene Hackman. Nowadays, superhero movies, Christopher Reeve would have got top billing, and it would have been with Gene Hackman and Marlon Brando, in the credits on the poster, and it would have been just a bunch of big fucking bodies piled together, because that's how they love doing superhero posters.
Oh
now.
my god, the whole vertical posters of it's like the worst thing for movies now. I hate it.
Yeah, I hate it too. It's just everybody just fucking a collage of people piled together, and it's like, and you look at that teaser poster for the first Superman, and it's just literally just clouds with the red, blue and yellow streak and the silver Superman symbol. You'll believe a man can fly. And that's all you needed. That's all you needed to sell this movie. You didn't need Christopher Reeve and Marlon Brando and Gene Hackman and Margot Kidder and who else? Jackie Cooper and Ned Beatty all on the fucking poster, just smushed together in the middle of it, and just a bunch of bullshit just behind them. You didn't need that. You didn't need it. Oh, that's all you needed to sell this movie.
And you had the director of the fucking Omen as well, directing it. Like, I mean, we could do a whole podcast that was about Richard Donner's career, but like, watching the Omen, and then 3 years later or 2 years later, then you get Superman, a superhero movie.
Yeah,
which is written by Mario Puzo, who wrote the Godfather book. Like, what the hell? I never noticed that growing up until like I rewatched both of these movies. I was like, what the hell? This guy was writing the book to the movies for the Godfather 1 and 2 and 3. Like, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah. But I gotta give credit where credit is due, because you do have all these names, Mario Puzo and David and Leslie Newman and Robert Preston, who like are credited on the script. But originally, really, it was written by Tom Mankiewicz, who was brought in by Richard Donner because he trusted him to do it, but they wouldn't give him writing credit, so he got creative consultant credit. But he's the one who originally really put the script together. But like I guess like, yeah, like in order to like make the movie seem more enticing than ever, you put Mario Puzo, the writer of The Godfather, in the writing credits, and people are like, oh my god, the guy that wrote The Godfather is writing Superman. And really it was just Tom Mankiewicz who wrote it, But Richard Donner is definitely the reason that Superman is the mecca of all superhero movies. Like Tom Feige, guy turned Marvel Studios into like multi-billion-dollar franchise. He says like, look, the blueprint is Superman. Always, watch Superman all the time, whenever we do a superhero movie. That because like, yeah, like you mentioned The Omen, and Richard Donner had a long career television before that. He directed episodes of The Twilight Zone, Danger Island, which was a segment on the Banana Split show. And like, yeah, but he did The Omen. It was a big hit, and they were looking for directors and they couldn't find one, so they was like, hey, this guy just had a big hit. Let's ask him if he wants to do Superman. And the beauty about that was that he was a fan of comics, and he grew up reading the comics as a youngster, and he was reading the scripts, and he was just like, oh, this is terrible. This is gonna fucking ruin Superman, make him like bullshit. So like he took the job not necessarily because he wanted to make the movie, because he felt like he had to protect Superman from being ruined by somebody else who take it and didn't understand. Like I remember seeing an interview where he said Superman was part of American icona. You know what I'm saying? He was as American as apple pie, ham and cheese sandwiches, Mickey Mouse, and he was just like, he wanted to portray that, so he went about like, like before that, people wouldn't think of superhero movies just being like campy stuff. Like, before that, when you think superhero portrayals, you think of Batman 66, Adam West, and Burt Ward, which in that show's defense, that show was supposed to be like that. People were like, oh, it's so campy. I was like, yeah, it's supposed to be camp. That was the point. It was like almost a comedic show. But Richard Donner didn't want to do that. He wanted, he said Superman deserves to be an epic American epic, and that's exactly what he did. And that's why that film reigns supreme to this day, where it's like people talk about their favorite superhero movies. Superman is definitely there. How could it not be? Because without Superman, we wouldn't get any of the, like Kevin Feige, you know what I'm saying? Like people are like, oh, Marvel's the best. I'm like, yeah, but without Superman, you don't got Kevin Feige making these movies, you know? And
you don't even get Tim Burton's Batman in
1989. No, at all. You do not, because without Superman, you don't get that epic portrayal of Batman either. You get a remake of Adam West Batman for the silver screen. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't get like, no, we're gonna make this epic. Like Richard Donner was the one that put out the idea that superhero movies could be epic, taken seriously. And that's the beauty. That's the beauty of Richard Donner as a director. God bless that man. Like he's made so many great movies afterwards. And Lady Hawk, which was one of my mother's all-time favorites. Just so many fantastic movies. The Goonies, of course, which was another one of my mother's all-time favorites. She would call me every time it was on screen, like, oh, look what I'm watching, The Goonies, and I'm like, Mom, I've only seen that movie 100,000 fucking times. Like, yeah, but look at this part. Like, look at Trump doing the Trump shuffle, and I'm just like, yeah, it's still funny. I still laugh. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't help it. The truffle stuff was still funny. It's just, God bless Richard Donner.
Yeah, he's just kind of like he's almost like a little bit like a Rob Reiner type, where like his movies you grew up watching and they're just so iconic.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, and like it's so varied too. Like to go from The Omen to Superman to Lady Hawk to Lethal Weapon, like to Maverick, Conspiracy Theory, like all these things he's done over the like throughout these years, throughout his career. And like he was so varied, like he was so versatile. Just he was one of the greatest directors ever. Just the world is a sadder place that he's no longer with us.
And we talked at the beginning of the episode about like director's cuts and stuff like that. So, man, I think it's really cool, and I think Peter Jackson made it cool when directors have the task of directing not only the first movie but the sequel, and in Peter Jackson's case the third movie, kind of simultaneously all together.
Yeah,
that's what he was doing with Superman 1 and 2. And I think when people watch Superman and they go, well, there's some things that don't age well, it's a little corny and cheesy at times. But it's like some parts of that were probably meant for Superman 2, and some parts of Superman 2 were meant for Superman 1. Like I read that Superman 2's script, like the ending, the third act was finished before even the third act of the first movie.
Yeah.
And then we talk about director's cuts now, where, I mean, we're just off the heels of Thor, Love and Thunder. I don't know, Robbo, if you've seen it and what your thoughts are on it. But like, I mean, Taika said there was a 4-hour cut, and people are like, where's the Taika cut? Where's the freaking
I don't.
What is the Suicide Squad? What's the freaking the Suicide
Squad? The air cut. Release the air cut. Yeah.
I caught it'd probably be the ass cut for all I care. Like I don't need to see that. David Ayer slander on this podcast, but like, I mean, honestly, director's cuts are kind of fun and they're kind of cool, and sometimes they surpass the theatricals in some aspects.
Yeah.
I mean, personally, like I'd rather watch the director's cut of Alien 3 than the theatrical cut. I think Carmelita and I had talked about that in our podcast. I prefer the director's cut. Alien for Ridley Scott, I prefer the theatrical. It's fun to watch the director's cut, but it was purely promotion. Some of those scenes don't really make sense in hindsight after the sequels came out, but that's just me.
I definitely agree with you on that one. Aliens as well. James Cameron's director's cut of Aliens as well is someone where it's like, I prefer the theatrical cut of Aliens. Like the director's cut of Aliens is fine, but the theatrical cut is the one I go to.
Yeah.
Alien 3, I'm like, okay. I don't say this often because I always get like people just thinking of me absolutely fucking insane. But Alien 3 is actually my favorite film in the Alien franchise.
Woo, woo! I love that, man. I love to hear that. Carmelita is gonna be like, get me on some sort of podcast of Robos right now. I love that.
Yeah. I'm all for the Alien 3 love. But I actually like both versions equally. I can't choose between them. Like I love the assembly cut that they release. You know, because I love seeing all the extra footage, but I love the theatrical cut all the same. That was the one I grew up on. I watched the theatrical cut of Alien 3 religiously as a kid, and I still watch it to this day. I have no problem watching either one. So yeah, that's my that's my take on director's cuts right there.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, like Snyder made it cool, and I think Snyder did right by it as well. But like, I think people kind of forget like directors because you really just don't get unless you bought like a special features or watch all the special features on like a bonus edition on a DVD or Blu-ray. I mean, the prime example. I mean, for fuck's sakes, I mean, Oliver Stone's Alexander. You know, with like 3 fucking different cuts, like director's cut, ultimate cut, final cut. You know, like. The movie's still kind of mid, kind of all right, you know, like regardless. But
I think that was Ridley Scott's thing because Ridley Scott has how many cuts of Blade Runner? There's the theatrical cut, then the original director's cut, and there's the international's cut. Then I know that there's like 5 cuts, and then there's like the last one was his final cut. Like Ridley loves fucking with his movies. God bless that man. I love Ridley Scott. God bless him and his brother. God bless Tony all the way. Like as you know, in our Twitter sphere of like all of us, Tony Scott is just the king. You will not find like you will find all the love of Tony Scott between us, and then if you find somebody disparaging Tony Scott, it is on site. It is blood.
Seriously. It's like just admit that you didn't watch True Romance and Top Gun and you've lived under a rock for 30 plus years.
Right. Oh, he's another one with the director's cut because his director's cut of Revenge is another one. I forgot. It may have been Mike when we were talking about the director's cut of Revenge. He asked me, and I was like, that's another one. I love both cuts equally. I love the theatrical cut, and I love Tony's director's cut. Like the funny thing about Tony's director's cut is Tony's director's cut is actually shorter than the theatrical cut, where that one is 121 minutes. Tony's director's cut is 108 minutes. You know, he said, because he's like, I like pacing. Overlong shit doesn't really, I'm not with that. I like movies being fast paced, getting to the point. And it's like,
of course,
that's why we love you, Tony.
Of course, it's like he likes his stuff short and sweet, and then Ridley Scott's like, well, what if I stretch it out an extra 25 minutes?
Yeah. Oh yeah, another director's cut we should mention before we move on is Ridley Scott's cut of Kingdom of Heaven.
Oh my god. Yeah.
That nobody watches that theatrical cut. You either watch his director's cut or the roadshow version, and it's like, like I have a buddy named Matt Curioni. You mentioned you watched Kingdom of Heaven. Which version you watch? And I was like, it better be the roadshow version. I was like, is there any other version to watch?
Honestly, Kingdom of Heaven, like Troy, I don't think it's enough love. I think those are like movies I think that kind of age as time goes on because we don't get movies like that anymore. The closest thing you get is, oddly enough, like direct to DVD and video or stream like Sword and Sandals like on Netflix with The King with Timothy Chalamet, or when Michael Fassbender did The Centurion, or Sean Bean's The Black Death. I'm trying to think of others because I love movies like this. Oh, Channing Tatum's The Eagle is one.
Yeah.
Ironclad is one I like to shout out as well, with Rooney
Yeah.
Mara and or not Rooney Mara, but Paul Giamatti's in it. But yeah, I like to shout those movies out. Also, prerequisite for film Twitter people. I find it really suspicious or sus if like people are like, oh yeah, I love action movies, or I like Tony Scott movies or whatever. And if you haven't seen Man of Fire, I think that's really sus. Like, I don't see a lot of people talk about Man of Fire, but man, that movie is heat. No pun intended, but
No,
heat.
absolutely. I remember seeing that in theaters and crying at the end. Mike is actually a big supporter of the director's cut of that one. He's like, it's so much better because it has a better ending. And I'm just like, that's another one was just like, I don't care. Like, the theatrical cut or directors, just give me Man on Fire. I don't give a shit. You know what I'm saying? That movie's so amazing.
It is really good. I don't get it. I don't see it talked about enough. But also, like, you get director's cuts where you're kind of like, like Ari Aster's Midsommar, you know, like people were wanting that. I'm like, why? Like, why do we need that? The movie was long enough. But when we talk about director's cuts, I don't think much can compare to what the Donner cut and then the Lester cut. Very different, because very different situation. A lot of these director's cuts is they direct these movies and they have extra scenes and they hope to get them in and they submit it to an editor or producer and they're like, no. Yeah. But like the Donner cut, the man got fired like 70% of the way of this movie because budgeting and timing. I mean, they asked him to direct both movies back to back. I mean, come on, you know.
Yeah.
New Line Cinema gave Peter Jackson whatever the fuck he wanted. I mean, and this is 78 to 79. I mean, I can only imagine what the work environment was. I know Margot Kidder. I mean, the reason she's not big in Superman 3 is because she was on Donner's side after he got fired, and nobody really fucked with Lester. I think the Lester cut is the one that's usually shown on TV, which I didn't. Obviously, I watched that one more growing up, but I remember watching the Donner cut a few times because I remember. I mean, the big difference is honestly when Superman says, "Excuse me, Zod, haven't you heard of the freedom of the press?" Yeah. Like, I remember that one versus the "Excuse me, General, care to step outside?" You know, that's the big difference, I would say. Yeah. But on rewatch, I totally got confused because I forgot the ending to Superman 1 is that he turns back time to save Lois Lane, and I was like, no, I'm pretty sure that's in Superman 2. Like, I don't think that's in Superman 1. And then it's like, oh, no, it isn't Superman 1. And it's also in Richard Donner's cut of Superman 2.
Yes.
Because, I mean, you know, go ahead.
Yeah, that was the original ending. The you know, because both movies were being made at the same time, they were scripted at the same time. The original ending to Superman 2 was Superman turning back time to make Lois forget that he was Superman. But they you know, like they're shooting these movies simultaneously, you know, because people get confused because they're like, oh, they shot them back to back. They did not shoot them back to back. Like you said, they shot them at the same time. They would shoot like scenes from Superman 1 and they would shoot scenes from Superman 2, like, you know, just going back and forth between them. And then it was originally supposed to come out in summer of 78, but because of time constraints, they had to push it back to Christmas of 78, and they was like, all right, let's just stop shooting Superman 2 and just focus all our efforts on finishing Superman 1. And he was like, okay. And then he did that, and it was successful, and they said, okay, kid, we don't need you anymore, you're fired. And then they brought in Richard Lester, who to let you know why, you know, not you, but particularly the audience know that Richard Lester got credit because Directors Guild rules you have to shoot 51% of footage in order to get credit as a director, and that's exactly what he did. He shot 51% of it. This is why he got credit for the movie, you know. But the reason his cut is still great is because he was going off the back of what Donner had already done. And he was just like adding his own stuff to it. You know, that's why the movie's still great. And then like when you go to Superman 3, but he's fully in control of that, he directed 100% of the footage, and you were like, Oh, okay. Yeah,
I
you
mean,
know,
Richard Pryor could only do so much.
right. But I don't hate Superman 3 as much as everybody else. There's a lot of there's a lot of good stuff in Superman 3. Like the comedy is awful in that film. But there's a lot of good stuff. Which leads me to my problems with the first two Superman movies. Is I mean, it's not really a problem, but like it's just an observation I have, which I feel is actually solved in Superman 3, but nobody gives a shit because everyone hates Superman 3. Not as much as they hate Superman 4, but a
Right.
lot of people hate Superman 3. Is that Superman as a character is selfish. Like you have that moment in Superman when he's talking to Jonathan Kent, played by the great Glenn Ford, and he's talking about how, like, I gotta play like the water boy, and I could easily be a football player, and I know I could get a touchdown every time. And it's like, son, you're meant for greater than that. Like, don't worry about just being a football player. You're meant for greater with your abilities and all that stuff. And like that's like the sign of his selfishness. Like, and then like when he's talking to Jor-El, and he's like, I deserve a life, like after all I've done for the people of this planet, I deserve to have my own life. And where I feel it's solved in Superman 3 is when his character turns dark. He's affected by the dark kryptonite, and he becomes completely selfish. He's like, I don't save people anymore. I'm just gonna have fun and do bullshit. I'm gonna blow out the Olympic torch, and I'm just gonna do whatever. And then he has to fight himself in order to kill that dark persona. He has to kill that selfish side of him. And I like the fact that it's Clark that has to do it, because he's essentially Clark Kent at this point. And after he defeats Dark Superman, he truly becomes selfless, heroic Superman. That's how I look at that movie. But nobody cares because everyone hates Superman 3. But that going back to the filming schedule, like I can't imagine what a headache that must have been for Richard Donner to be shooting two movies at the same time. And then like the heartbreak to have to feel that after the first film comes out and it's a big success, and like you're expecting to come back and finish Superman 2, and they're like, no, you're fine, bro. We're gonna bring in our own boy, and to hell with you. And like he was bitter for many years after that, where when they basically put this version together, the Donner cut, and they were like, dealing with the footage, he was like, as long as I don't have to deal with the Lester footage, that's fine. I don't want to watch it. It was still so painful for him to have to relive those moments, and it's just it's insane. It's insane that you put together this huge success and they fire you for it. They fire you for the film being successful. It's fucking crazy. It's crazy to me.
Yeah, and you hear about problems on set and stuff like that. It's not like anybody had any problems. It's literally because he was over budget, which they got the money back after the first movie anyway, and it's not like movies, like, I mean, I don't know, it's weird when you watch Superman 1, you could easily see how it was a home run movie, and it's some of the scenes that those movies are spliced together from things from Superman 2, which I think is really interesting as well. It's like if you're watching A New Hope and then things from Empire Strikes Back are in there, and then things from New Hope are in Empire Strikes Back. But it still doesn't, because I'm a big fan of Superman 2. I watched the Donner cut. I really enjoyed it. I actually think Superman 2 is better than the first movie, the Donner cut. I think that one's better because you get more of Superman's like struggles of like determining like what kind of hero he wants to be more than the first one. I also like Lois Lane in the second one more too. I mean, the big difference with the Lester cut and the Donner cut. I mean, the big thing in this movie is Lois Lane coming to terms with who is Superman and figuring out if Clark Kent really is or not, and Clark deciding if he wants to be Superman or if he wants to be Clark Kent. And then you get General Zod who was introduced in the first movie, which I think is awesome sequel setting before determining if the first movie is going to be successful or not.
Yeah.
Gets him and his followers get put into the Phantom Zone. They're gone, and then they show up again, depending on which version you watch. In the first one, I don't like the lesser cut opening to Zod in them. I like the Donner cut more, where it shows what happens at the end of the first movie to show how it impacts the second movie. I think it's excuse me, I think that's brilliant. And Zod and his followers in the Donner cut, I think, are way more menacing. I think the movie flows to like I watched Superman 1 the first night and then Superman 2 Donner cut the next night. And and I started watching a little bit of the lesser cut in the first movie of the Superman 2's theatrical. I think the Donner cut just flows better personally.
Yeah.
And I totally prefer I mean it's Marlon fucking Brando. I prefer Brando and Jor-El as the guiding voice in Superman 2 just a little bit more. I mean, God, how many times can you say Krypton? I mean, I love that so much. I mean, that's like the big differences. But I can't think of movies that are like that, where it's like you got to splice shit together and make a movie, But Donner did that in 2006. And when Superman Returns comes out, you kind of get a unofficial trilogy of sorts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just flows better as almost one story. The Superman and then the Donner cut. It just they feel like one whole story, whereas Lester's cut is just its own thing. It's just own separate story. I mean, you still have Zod in there as the villain, but it's just completely separated. You have that separation there. In Donner's cut is just we could get this one long complete story of Superman, him coming to terms with his abilities, his purpose, and his love for Lois Lane, and his okay, so here's the thing. I'll just get into it. That's where Donner, I feel kind of listen to me about to tell a legendary director what he should have done. I don't necessarily think what he should have, but this is what I would have done. Is that there are moments that I have, like you said, they're cringeworthy moments. The particular moment I have a problem with, though, which is in both versions, is that diner scene.
Yeah.
Because of course Superman gives up his powers because he wants to be, he doesn't want this responsibility, because the quote, Uncle Ben, with great power comes great responsibility. And he doesn't want the responsibility anymore. He just wants to be a normal guy, just I love this woman, I want to be with her. In Les's version, it seems more like he wants to give up his powers so they can fuck. And
I mean,
Donna's
yeah, probably his first time having sex. I mean, yeah, I'm about to give it all up for sure.
Right. That is true. In Donna's version, it makes it clear he just wants to be a normal guy. He just doesn't want it, this responsibility anymore. Jor-El's telling him look, dude, you have a purpose, you should use it. And he's like, no, man, I want to be regular. I love this woman. I just want to be a regular guy. And Jor was like, all right, whatever, I don't care. So he gives up his abilities. They go to this diner as a perfectly human couple, and then he gets into it with a bully in there and he gets his ass whooped. And this is where I have the problem. This is where he realizes his mistake, is that this human guy just whooped my ass. Some trucker asshole bully guy. And it's just oh man, I wish I had my power so this wouldn't have happened. And it's that's what I was talking about, the selfishness of the character, where it's just this is where you start to realize your mistake. Obviously, the main point is where he realized Zod is on Earth and he's terrorizing everybody.
Right.
And it's just oh shit. Now I really know I made a mistake. But originally it started with I got beat up by this bully. And it's just Yeah, no, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that at all. Um, it seems to me like uh, this is you realize your mistake because you couldn't withstand getting your ass whooped by some guy, some regular human guy. I mean, like the way I looked at it, it should have been more something like where maybe like after he goes into the bathroom and Lois is in there waiting for him to come back, like some robbers come in. It's like two thieves come in. And like this is a stick up, everybody get on the floor, give us your money.
Mm-hmm.
And like they move all the patrons to the middle, and Clark comes out and he's just like, oh shit, it's a robbery. Like, oh shit, that's right, I'm not Superman anymore, I can't do anything. So but like he still knows right from wrong, and like I gotta stop these guys because I'm a hero. So like he tries to fight with one of the robbers, and like the other let's say the other patrons grab the other robber and they subdue him. But Clark is fighting with this other guy, the other robber, and let's say like a shot goes off from his gun and it hits the waitress in her arm. Oh, like I'm shot. And then like he's able, like, oh no, and then he knocks the gun out of his hand, and then they fight, and that's when he gets his ass whooped. And then Lois picks up the gun and she gunbutts the robber in the back of the head, like subduing him. And like Clark is on the floor, like, oh my god, oh man, is everybody okay? And the owner of the joint is like, no, like she's hurt. What are you doing? Like, what are you crazy? Like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, yeah, like she could have been killed. Who do you think you are, Superman? And that's where he should realize his mistake. Like, oh shit, that's right. See, if I was Superman and I did keep my powers, I could have handled this with no problem. But like I gave up my powers and this happened and the lady got hurt and it's all my fault. You know what I'm saying? Like it's all my fault. And that to me is more in tone with like what the type of character Superman is than, oh, I wish I had my powers so I didn't get beat up by some asshole in a diner.
Yeah.
And like what makes it even worse is then he comes back later with his powers intact to get petty fucking revenge on the diner asshole. Like compare this to the scene in Man of Steel where Clark stops the asshole drunk trucker from sexually harassing the girl.
Yep.
And like he's like, hey, get out of here, like, and he pours beer on him, and Clark just looks at him and he's like, dude, I could pop you like a fucking balloon right now, but that would be wrong, and I'm not going to do that. What I am going to do is I'm going to go outside and take my frustrations out on your truck.
Yep.
And like people, and like I've seen people who hate that scene. Like he destroyed that guy's livelihood. Well, he also stopped this guy from sexually harassing this woman, and he stopped him from possibly drunk driving and like hurting somebody. So that's some heroic shit. And like compare that to the scene where Clark comes back and he uses his abilities to take petty revenge on this guy who beat him up because he didn't have his powers. Like he lets him punch him in the stomach as hard as he can, knowing he has skin that is like steel. The guy could have broken his hand. Then he puts him on a swivel chair and spins it around as fast as he could. Could have given that guy whiplash. Then he puts him on the
stool.
Like he puts him on the stool, spins him, probably giving him whiplash. Then he puts him on like the
bar.
Yeah, the bar, and then sends him flying across it, ruined everybody's meal except that one guy that fucking
who picks up the plate. Yep.
Yeah, and sends him crashing into a pinball machine. You could have gave that guy lacerations on his back, concussion. Like you could have seriously hurt this guy. But that's fine because, like, yeah, Superman got revenge on the bully. But it's a problem when he takes his Superman and Man of Steel takes his frustrations out on the truck and Man of Steel. Like, I don't have many problems with it, but like that's the problem I have because it's like I just and I know Richard Donner has said himself in the interview, he like rewatching it, there's some things I would have changed. Like I was younger, you know what I'm saying, and it's hard for me to get in the headspace, but I'm just like, why did I do that? And I'm wondering if that was one of the sequences where he was just like, I would have done it differently. Because I definitely would have done that differently if I were him.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's like an off scene, especially because it's at the very end of that cut, Also, I find it really odd that Superman doesn't have post-nut clarity before he decides to turn into human. Like, I mean, come on, guy. Like, just take a second before you do it. You know what I mean? His dad,
Right.
he's like, Marlon Brando's like, bro, I don't know, man. Like, I knew you were gonna do this, but like, really think about it before you do it.
Right, and the beauty of that, though, the beauty of the Donner cut is, he realizes his mistake and he comes back and he's like, "Yeah, Pop, I fucked up, and I'm sorry." And Jor-El's like, "I told you, but you know what? You're my son, and I'm not gonna let you hang out there let you hang out like that. So I'm going to give up my life essence, what I'm saying, so you could, uh, uh, you know, completely do away with your mistake."
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like that's a beautiful scene, like where like Jor-El appears in front of him, like Marlon Brando, and like my son, and it's just like it's crazy to think that because the Sulkins was so petty, and that we include Marlon Brando, we would have to pay him, so don't include no Marlon Brando footage, and it's like because of that you cut that scene out. And it's like the best scene in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like
honestly, Brando doesn't like just take a paycheck in these Superman movies. Like he actually does some really good work in it.
Yeah, and that scene right there too. Like it's just amazing. Like and you got John Williams' score, beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And he just comes up and like it's just a beautiful moment. Like I remember, right after it came out, the Donner cut, my uncle Junior, who's no longer with us, God bless him, he was a huge Superman fan. The like DC Comics guy. I get my love of DC Comics characters from my uncle Junior. He was a huge fan of Superman 2. Superman 2 was his favorite of the Superman movies. And I was telling him about the Donner cut. And like, in the Lester cut, he just finds the green crystal, and then like when we see him again, he's got his powers back. But I was telling him like, no, in this new cut, we see how it happens, with Jor-El, and he was like, "Oh yeah, oh I gotta see that, and it's just like, yeah, like because the importance of that, as far as the Superman mythos of Jor-El to give up his life essence to give his son his powers back is a beautiful moment, especially played by Marlon Brando, and they were just like, yeah, we don't want to pay Marlon Brando any residuals. Let's cut him out of this whole fucking thing.
And it's not like he was even phoning it in. Like he did such a good job.
Right. Like that's the beauty of Marlon Brando. Like because Marlon Brando's like, I don't care, just give him my check. But like he's such a great actor. It's just like even if he was phoning it in, he's just so great that it's just it's just. How could you cut this out, you pieces of shit?
Right. Like they essentially like Wizard of Oz him in these two Superman movies, but like it's a fucking great performance.
Yeah.
With the floating head shit. But and you covered a good part because in the Donner cut, it's the John Williams score. It's not I forget the other composer who does
and Thorne.
With an E at the end, I'm pretty sure. He
Yes.
does the score. I don't know. I think the theatrical cut of Superman 2 is just a little bit more campy. It's a little bit more of like a romantic comedy of sorts with some action. I feel like the Donner cut's a little bit more like of a hero action movie. I think Zod and Ursa and I forget the big brute. I think they're more menacing. Don. I think they're just more menacing. Dom.
No, Non.
Oh, Non, because he doesn't talk.
Yeah, he doesn't talk at all.
Yeah. I just think they just seem more menacing. They're more of hard asses than anything else. Plus, you get more Gene Hackman in this cut too.
Yeah. Because shout out to Gene Hackman. He was one of the MVPs. Him and Margot Kidder. Gene Hackman refused to come back and do any more scenes or re-record any of his lines because they fired Donner. Christopher Reeve and Margot Kidder were essentially stuck, but like they punished her in the next one by like having her only be in there for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, it does. It stinks. It doesn't age well. It's stupid.
Yeah. Christopher Reeve was essentially the worst one because he was the one playing Superman. So this is like he just had to fucking deal with it, But Margot Kidder and Gene Hackman was like, nah, fuck you. You fired our boy. You guys are fucking assholes.
I swear, Warner Brothers loves to like make money, but also like hurt themselves at the same time.
Oh,
like, I swear to God.
They're the kings of shooting themselves in the fucking foot all the time.
They never learn.
They do it all the time. They did it with this. They did it with the Batman movies. They did it with Snyder. They did it with Green Lantern as well.
They're fucking it up with the Flash too.
Oh God! I
mean, I think on recording, I don't think anybody knows where Ezra Miller is.
No, nobody knows where Ezra
if he
Miller
shows
is.
up in Chicago, he better know there's shooters on his 6, like for sure. Like don't.
No. They are somewhere in Hawaii, just laying low, and it's like, oh God. And it's like. Poor Michael Keaton, you return to have to deal with this fucking mess.
It just shows you like how like also I noticed this when watching the first Superman movie again. I never realized how in close in relation George Lucas's Luke Skywalker beginning to Star Wars is so similar to Clark Kent's opening in Donner's 78 Superman. You know, small town kid who knows there's a bigger purpose with a father-like figure who kind of shows him the way. It kind of at the end, you know, achieves some sort of greatness and then builds upon it. It is a little selfish and a little bit more not whiny, but of sorts like overconfident. Same thing like Luke Skywalker in Empire Strikes Back is. Yeah. When fighting Vader, same thing with Superman when he fights Zod and when he thinks he figured out what he wants in life. And you know, they're decisions they want to overturn eventually. But also like when we talked about like, you know, Uncle Ben, you know, in Spider-Man, it's interesting. You watch Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2. It's kind of eerily similar to Richard Donner's Superman 2 as well. And I don't want to say that Superman and Superman 2 is kind of like the blueprint that these movies kind of, you know, abridged of, because it's like classic storytelling in a sense and like character arcs. But like Superman 2, the Donner cut for me is just so much more of an easier watch than I think the first Superman movie. And when you watch the Lester cut, I mean, other than the scene where it's like, do you care to step outside, and the ending being significantly different than the first or than the Donner cut, I mean, Superman 2 is a pretty awesome movie. Like,
yeah,
I mean, you get like some good action. I think Zod is awesome in this movie. I think Michael Shannon saw Superman 2 and was like, I can do that and better. And he definitely does. There's some homage there, except the get-up isn't as cool as in the original 1980 Superman. I love the get-ups.
Yeah, Terrence Stamp and Superman 2 is fancy as hell. Yeah.
Oh, dude, Ursa, dude. I mean,
oh yeah. They're all fancy as hell. The little like, you know,
thirsty
like sequin. Yeah, yeah, most definitely.
And you know what? I like how it kind of wraps up things for like on the Lex Luthor or Lex Luthor, excuse me.
Mr. Luthor.
Yeah, like they wrap up his character and everything else, and he's just like, you know, that's why I like Lex Luthor as a kid growing up, and even like watch the animated series. Like, yeah, he's super smart, but like he's got his eye on the prize, and it's always been real estate. Like that's how you know he's a real villain. You know, when he's trying to buy up real estate, the economy we live in now, like Lex Luthor, like man, this guy's a bad mofo.
Yeah, like Warner Brothers loves Lex Luthor as well because that's the only villain we get in Superman movies. Like Superman has a wealth of super villains like Brainiac, Metallo, Lobo, like so many great villains. But like in Superman movies, we only get Lex Luthor. Like fucking Batman, we get the Joker, the Penguin, Catwoman, Mr. Freeze. Poison Ivy, Two-Face, the Riddler. You know, we get a Scarecrow. We get all these, you know, his Rose Gallery. In Superman movies, all we get is motherfucking Lex Luthor. We get nothing. Nothing. I can't stand it.
No, I can't either. I mean, and that's why when we talked about Superman earlier, you know, man, those animated stuff, like the live action stuff I liked a lot, but I think Superman's animated works are strong. Like the DC multiverse movies like are awesome. Like you talk about Doomsday or the Death of Superman remake of that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know, the Justice League Unlimited movies. Like, I mean, they introduced a lot of like Superman's villains. I think Brainiac's even like in the Injustice video games, even it's mostly Superman stories that they're taking.
Yeah.
You know, Crisis on Infinite Earth. I think the animated Superman stuff is top tier, like DC content. Like people who don't watch like those DC animated movies are missing out. I watched Superman Red Sun earlier this year, and I was like, oh my God, this movie's so good. Like people need to watch that. I mean, it does Batman dirty, but I don't give a shit. You know, it's about Superman. But when it comes to like live action Superman, I mean, you're gonna get Lex Luthor because I mean it's the Joker effect in Batman. Like I mean, yes, a lot of Batman movies we get a lot of different rogues, the rogues galleries on displays. You know, same thing with Spider-Man. But I mean, there's always people that want to watch Joker in the Batman movies. I mean, even the Batman with Matt Reeves, we got Joker technically in it already. You know what I mean?
We did.
Like you can't escape that. Like you can't escape Superman with Lex Luthor, excuse me, and. I mean, I'm cool with it, but I think I think getting General Zod and getting his two minions with him too. I just really respect Richard Donner to be like having the balls to be like, I'm making a movie and these people aren't even in the main villains, but they're going to be in the opening of this freaking movie and they're going to show up in the second movie. And, you know, when he does the remake or does the splicing, I guess, because I mean, technically you could say the Donner cut is a Frankenstein movie because like he splices things from his footage in 78 and then he splices things from the Lester cut. And then he does things with VFX in 2006, right after Superman Returns. It still makes a competent movie. Like you go on any Reddit, people are going to say Donner cut's not a full movie. It's not a complete movie. It's a fucking movie. Like it's the test screenings footage, the reuse of an ending from the first movie and this one. I mean, it's still so good.
For like in his defense, there's like the reuse of Lester's footage is because he just didn't shoot that. You know, so they had no choice but to use it, which is like, I mean, it's not like in Zack Snyder's case where Joss Whedon reshot most of it, but like Snyder had shot everything he wanted to shoot, so he could just use his own footage. He didn't have to use any of Whedon's footage. And he stated himself, like, I would burn everything before I use any of Joss Whedon's footage. Unfortunately, Donner didn't have that choice. You know, he just had to use it. So it's just like, whatever, you know. And I remember people complaining when it first came out, like back in the day on IMDb message boards.
The real cancer and toxicity of Twitter is right there on IMDb.
Yeah, like people talk about how film Twitter is so toxic. Like, y'all don't remember IMDb message board. That was the worst. I was there, and it was just like when they said they were disabling message boards, and everybody was like, "No," I was like, "Yes, please kill this toxicity." The message board sucked. They were
now they migrated to Letterboxd now, I guess too.
Oh yeah. Like that's why I just post my reviews on Letterboxd and I'm out.
Oh,
I don't care. But like I remember people complaining about the reuse of Superman turning back the Earth and time, and I'm like, I find it kind of fun. Because if you look at the way they used it, like in the first Superman, when he's turning back time, like you know he's just full of emotion and he's crying because he's trying to save Lois. And the Donner cut, he's smiling as he does it. And almost like the sense of, here we go again, doing this one more time. And it's just like, it works for me. It works for me, the turning back time. I don't have a problem with him reusing it in this one as well. Like, I find it completely fine. And also, he has the footage of showing back the hands of time, like where Perry White, the great Jackie Cooper, is putting toothpaste on his toothbrush, and you see it come out and then go back into the tube. You see like everything just going back, and I was like, I thought that was great. Like I think fine. I'm glad he didn't have to use the fucking stupid, because I like the
Memory-
Lester cut, but that fucking stupid
Memory
I'm
kiss.
oh the memory kiss to make her forget that he's Superman with a kiss. I'm like, y'all just pulled that out of your fucking ass. Like, what is this? Like, Superman has never had this ability ever. Like, it's like watching Superman 4 and when he rebuilds the Great Wall of China with his mind. I'm like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah,
What
just
is
playing
this?
Tetris. Yeah.
This is bullshit.
Also, I think Lois Lane's better in Superman 2, the Donner cut, because like she fucking shoots mans just to prove a point. She jumps off a building. Like she's unhinged in this movie.
Oh, she's out of fucking control.
Yeah.
Like jumping out the window, like pretending she's gonna shoot him. Like Lois is out of control. Like
Mhm.
like in the Lester cut, she just jumps into like what is it, the river around Niagara Falls. And this one, she jumps out of a fucking window. Honey, you are insane.
Like she's just thirsting for Superman. Like she can't help it anymore. She's just unhinged.
Yeah, she was caught in the Superman thirst trap. Like,
yeah. But I will say, I mean, I always liked the first Superman movie, but like, I don't know, on rewatches Superman 2, the Donner cut, like it's pretty elite to me. Like I'm really kind of not wanting to watch Superman 3. I don't hate Superman 3, but like I'd rather just watch Superman Returns, because I remember when Superman Returns came out and I was super hyped. I was buzzed for that movie. And I'm curious to see how that kind of like, because it does play off Superman 2 in some aspects.
Yes, it does.
In the Donner cut specifically, I would say much better. So I'm really anxious to kind of watch that and see what that would look like. But Superman 2, I mean, it's hard to talk about two movies, two different versions of the same movie, but like, I mean, you can most of the movies are similar. There's just little differences, but like I think in Superman 2's defense, there's some big differences compared to different cuts. I mean, even the openings for goodness sake is like so different. Like the opening in Paris and the Lester cut, it's kind of cool, to see the Eiffel Tower and everything.
Yeah.
I just really like the opening to the Donner cut, where it has a really nice in memoriam. It tries to recreate in 2006 age-old footage in the 80s, to make them like fit that, leave you the Phantom Zone. I think that's really incredible. I don't like when they sneak into the Fortress of Solitude and kill the henchmen, and everything, and it gives you like a play-by-play of the first movie. I don't like when movies do that. I don't like how Thor: Love and Thunder does that as well. Like, motherfuckers, we are fucking nerds. We watch these movies religiously. We don't forget movies very easily anymore. Like, we don't need play-by-plays of what happened in last movies. I don't know. When I was growing up, when a movie's coming out, it's a sequel, you go to Family Video, and whatever you don't remember, you just rent all the fucking movies before that, and you binge through them before the next movie, and you gear up. Like that's just what you did. Superman 2, they really kind of don't do that, except just say like, oh, they're still in the Phantom Zone. Remember these people from the very first 5 minutes of the first movie? Here they are. They're going to be kicking ass the rest of this movie. That's about it. In the first, like the Lester cut, they're just like, oh, remember who Zod is. Remember the introduction of this person and all of this other stuff.
Yeah. And no, I think that's smart to do stuff like that, where it's like, a lot of movies do that now, and I hate that. Mm-hmm. Like with sequel bait ending, where they release it on where they leave it open for the sequel at the end. But like, if we don't like the movie, we don't go see it, and if we don't go see it, the movie doesn't do well. The movie doesn't do well, it doesn't get a sequel, so we'll never know what the fuck happens, and at the end of that one, because we didn't get a sequel to explain. And I hate that. I hate sequel bait endings with a passion. I'll mention this one because Mike loves it when I do that. But like Mile 22 with Mark Wahlberg, I hate that ending because it's such a sequel bait ending. I do it because Mike loves it for some reason. When I trash Mile 22, it makes
no way.
He does it.
Is Michael Scott one of those like Mark Wahlberg defenders?
No, it's not that he's a Mark Wahlberg defender. He care less. He couldn't care less. It's just that it makes him like I don't know. He said it too because I shitted on it not too long ago. And he was like, "Oh, it fills my heart with so much joy to watch the bros shit on Mile 22 whenever he does it."
He's just a Peter Berg guy. That must be it.
I don't even think that is. I just think that he doesn't like that movie either. And then I shit on it, and he's just like, "Yes, shit on that movie, shit on it." And I'm just like, "Yeah, I will because I hate that movie." But it's like, I hate that issue of like that movies have now where they put the cart before the horse. And it's just like they're already planning the next entries in this series, but like you have to make sure we like their first entry first, before you start planning sequels. And like Superman was smart because it put that instant in there, like, this moment in there where Jor-El was banishing Zod and Ursa and Non into the Phantom Zone. And it's like that was the sequel bit, like, where it was like, oh, if we don't get a sequel, then it's just a moment where we see Jor-El in his element, like how he was, and that'd be fine. Like we don't have to worry, like, so what happened with them, because it's just like, well, who are they, and then it's successful, we get the sequel, and then like they bring Zod and them back, and it's like, oh, I remember them, they were in the first one, they got banished, and now they're back. And it's great, we didn't have to worry about like them putting them at the end of part one and just being like, oh, if nobody went to see Superman, then we'll never know what the fuck is going on with Zod and them. But like he was smart to put that in the beginning and just leaving it like that, and it was just like, yeah. The brilliance of Richard Donner, just to do that, like I said before, God bless that man. God bless that band in entirety.
Yeah, some of these MCU movies got some of these fucking movies a little too comfortable in their element. Like,
oh yeah,
you got to earn that sequel. Like, come on now.
Oh, they're gonna get a sequel. Marvel was so far into their whole thing where it's like they don't even have to worry. I'm maybe not entirely, maybe Eternals.
I'm just saying Marvel made a lot of movies too fucking comfortable, and I think studios got a little too comfortable too. Because if they're gonna be teasing a fucking Mile 23 or whatever with Mark Wahlberg, like I'm gonna be fucking pissed, because if we get I'm starting to get tired of movies that are getting unnecessary sequels. I mean, I'm happy we're getting another Den of Thieves movies personally. Like I'm excited for that shit, but I mean, until we get an Alita 2 is like when I'm gonna be actually happy. Like,
yes,
I'm still waiting for Alita Battle Angel 2.
Yes,
because it's an injustice if we don't.
Yes. Like I don't want any of these fucking sequels. Give me Alita 2, and I'll be happy. Like Cameron, I love you. I don't know if we necessarily need Avatar 2, 3, 4, and 5. I want Alita 2. Give us Alita 2, son of a bitch. Like that's all I care about at this moment. That movie was amazing. I love Alita, and I need Alita 2. Like this was going back to what I was saying before. Like, when you're a kid and you see a movie and you love it, and it's just like, give me that sequel. But that's how it was with Alita. Like, I want Alita 2. God damn it. I don't give a shit about anything else. Give me Alita 2.
When I saw Edward Norton, I was like, holy shit, the sequel's gonna be good. It's gonna be elite. I was like, oh wait, there's no fucking sequel? Like, where is it?
Yeah, you fucking ruin their lives with no
I can't wait for the next MCU movie or Secret Wars or whatever to come out, and then Edward Norton's the Hulk's and Bruce Banner's gonna be in it, and everyone's gonna be like, holy shit.
Right. Oh god. I will refrain from bad mouthing MCU here. I mean, like,
listen to the podcast, I guess.
No, like here's the thing. I like MCU movies. I just don't think they're worship worthy king shit as a lot of people do. So I just keep quiet, like with my criticisms. But I do like a lot of their movies, and I don't like a lot of their movies. And that's the best way I'm gonna put it right now. That's why, like, you're talking about Thor, Love and Thunder, and like, yeah, this, that, and like, dude, I have no plans of seeing that thing for a while. I haven't. I can't remember the last MCU movie I seen was Shang-Chi, and that's because I'm big martial arts guy, and
Yep.
it was the fight scenes were choreographed by the late great Brad Allen. So I was like, I'm just here for my boy Brad Allen. I don't give a shit about any MCU ties. I don't give a shit about the end, like the mid credit scene or the end credit scene. I could care less. I couldn't care less. I couldn't care less.
I mean, you left MCU at a good place. I mean, that movie popped off, like had
Yeah.
no business popping off like that.
No, it was great. It was great. It was a banger. Like before that, I think the last MCU movie before that I seen was Endgame.
Mhm.
And then everything between that and Shang-Chi I didn't see, and everything after Shang-Chi I haven't seen. I have Eternals, I haven't watched it yet. I don't know when. Like the funny thing is, um, for my birthday, my father bought me Thor Ragnarok like a couple of years back. And it took me like 2 years to watch it. Like I could not care less. I could not. Like I do not give a shit about any of this continuity and all that stuff. No, the movies are fine. The movies are fine, but I could not care less.
It's kind of
Could not.
annoying that some of these movies, like super movies, kind of either have to be so infused in realism or they can't have like some sort of suspended belief because of fandoms.
Yeah.
But then you see things like you see things like Superman, where he's turning back time by spinning the Earth around and around. Like, I mean, Kevin Feige and the Multiverse of Madness are like, what? That doesn't make fucking sense. Like, how can you change time? But like, they did that in '78. I mean,
Right, like because those movies aren't like Richard Donner's Superman movies aren't afraid of being corny because that's the part of Superman's, his whole aura. He's a corny character. Like I'll admit it, he's corny. Like that.
Mhm.
There's the reason they call him the Big Blue Boy Scout.
Yep.
He's a corny guy, but like he's unabashedly corny, and Richard Donner is not afraid of portraying that. Like a lot of superhero movies are afraid of that. Like Marvel movies, they're afraid of being corny. Like that's why they cut every serious moment with a joke. That's why I appreciate Snyder because there's sincerity in how he portrays the superheroes. Like yeah, they may be dark and gritty, and that's not for everybody. But I love that he pays some respect with how serious and sincere he portrays them, which you don't see in Marvel movie because everything has to be funny. Just, look how much fun we're having. It's all a joke, one big joke. And it's just like, no. Like, Snyder gets it where Feige doesn't, where, you look at Donner's Superman movies and he's corny and he's unapologetically so, and that's why I love it because he's just a character who's just in his element. He's a corny guy. He's a corny guy. That either moment with the fucking where he comes back with his powers and the general, would you care to step outside? Or in Donna's version, haven't you ever heard of freedom of the pest? There are two corny moments, but they're so fucking great, super like authentic Superman moments. Like I don't care how corny they seem, they're perfect for Superman. And that's why I love it so, like, because he's just authentic and how he portrays his character. And I don't give a shit how corny it is.
Right.
It's
And
wonderful.
they've never, and I think the worst, not the worst thing, but I think like the only difference throughout the years of Superman that's ever changed is the exploration of the what if of Superman. Like, what if he was not as corny or a Boy Scout? What if he was more of a Kal-El character? What if he like, the whole storylines of Doomsday and Superman dying, and then the stories of Superman and Darkseid, being corrupted, and turning on, society, those, I don't care as much for those. I think the Doomsday storyline is really interesting and really cool, but like him, Dark State Superman, where he's, in charge. Interesting. Maybe execution in other mediums haven't been as good, and then you think you take it to like the Frank Miller stuff where Frank Miller just doesn't like Superman at all,
Oh yeah. Frank Miller fucking.
Yeah, like I have a love-hate with Frank Miller. Like I kind of like in some ways his storylines of what Batman and like what it does for DC is cool, but like at the same time, there's some parts I have problems with in portrayals of other superheroes for the sake of because Batman's just cool and a human,
Yeah.
almost like what Snyder does. Snyder's almost like a Frank Miller type, where he's like, I like Batman so much, but I have to like marginalize the other superheroes for the sake of Batman in some aspects, you know?
Yeah.
But Superman still, at the end of the day, I think people still have like this idea of what Superman is. And I can't say you can say that about a lot of the other superheroes, except maybe at least in DC, you know, I would say maybe Wonder Woman, you could still say, is very much like she's had different variations and iterations. And I think some of those are for the better. Same thing with Superman. Like I like Henry Cavill's portrayal of Superman and Snyder's take on it, but he's still kind of been, you know, Superman.
Yeah.
But you can't say the same thing about Batman. You know, you can't say even the same thing about Green Lantern, or you can't say the same thing about Aquaman even anymore.
Yeah.
But that, I mean, the closest thing you can say is maybe Wolverine or maybe Spider-Man in, you know, these movies and comic books. Like there's not, it's one of those few characters where it's like everybody kind of knows them, and they still don't change from that because it's a really good flawless formula of sorts, you know?
Yeah, no, yeah. Absolutely. With Superman, the fact that I think that he remains so pure is what people find endearing, but also why people find him so like they're put off by him, because he doesn't have this like kind of like perfect nature. Where it's like, you know, kind of like, oh, like what if I do this? Like there's one story written by Joe Kelly, What's So Funny About Truth, Justice, and the American Way, where he kind of has to come to terms with that, where he deals with a superhero group that kind of goes over the edge, and in dealing with them, Superman proves that, you know, he could, but he chooses not to, and that's what makes him different from them. Is because he could literally you know, just burn the fucking world down if he could and just decimate everyone, but he doesn't, because he's not like them, you know. And you know, his values is what makes him different, and what makes him not necessarily better, but you know, stronger person for sticking to his values, you know, as a person, as a character. And like, you know, that to me is the most important Superman story, because it shows why he's such a great character overall, because he literally could fucking go around and split people's heads open and fucking crush them like a pancake. He just chooses not to, because if he loses control, you know, it's easy for him to lose control because he could do all these things. So, you know, him, you know, keeping that aspect at bay is what makes him the hero that he is. And that's just the most wonderful thing about Superman as a character. You know, when you think about that, there's also an aspect in Frank Miller's, like, I mean, he hates Superman, but he did give him a nice little arc in what was it, Dark Knight 3: The Master Race, where he cuts loose on these superhuman characters, and Batman is just astonished, like, wow, like, you know, he's been holding back this whole time, and look at him, like, you know, like, you realize if he was like this the whole time, we couldn't stop him. So like, you realize he's a true hero in that, you know, in that aspect, where he's like, I keep this at bay because it's better for the world that I do, you know, because if I just let loose, it's just, you know, anarchy, you know, just pure, just violence. And just, you know, Superman is just I like when people say he's a boring character. I'm like, go fuck yourself. You know, like, go fuck yourself. Superman, like, you know, you just gotta understand the character. Like, you know, there's so many great things to read where like what I just mentioned. What's So Funny About Truth, Justice, and the American Way, All-Star Superman, Superman for Tomorrow. Like, just explain what just how much wealth of just of character that character has, you know. And it's just, he's just, that to me, like, you know, right there is why he'll always be my favorite. Like, I would never change. Like, you know, people like, oh, I used to like this character as a kid, but now I like this character now. Like, Superman will always be my favorite. Superman will always be my favorite no matter what. Like, I would never change that. There's a picture I have where I'm decked out in all kind of Superman drip. I got Superman hat, shirt, watch, coffee cup. You know what I'm saying? I was out of control when I took that picture. I was just like,
Is-
I want to show my Superman drip in this
As
picture.
long as you're not the guy who wears a Superman t-shirt when he goes to the gym to lift.
Oh no.
That's just one of those unspoken rules, you know.
Yeah, that's just going too far. That's going too far.
Yeah.
I also don't wear a Superman shirt when I go to see a Superman movie. It's like, you know, I'm not that guy. I would never be that guy.
Yeah, don't be that guy. Like, we get it. You can say you're a fan and you're good. You don't have to drip out for a premiere of a superhero movie. Like, I swear to God, when No Way Home was coming out, everything Spider-Man clothing was pushed away. I was like, I don't need any of this. Like, I'm good. You know?
Right.
But I mean, Robbo, I mean, is there anything else you need to say, my man? Because it's like, I think you nailed it on the head. I think you can appreciate both versions. I think that's what's the beauty of director's cuts and theatrical cuts and all these other things. Is like, they're fun to watch and you can kind of make your choice on which one you prefer. I think it's super cool. But again, I think you're right. I think there's sometimes some movies you just, you know, maybe you're trying to be a little different, you know, when you say, oh, the Ari Aster version of Midsommar is way better than the theatrical because, you know, 824, you know. But I think the daughter cut and the lesser cut, I think there's arguments to be made on your preference of which one you want to watch. And
absolutely,
I think when it comes to Superman, kind of like the foundation of what like superhero movies should be like and like borrow from and kind of build on it. I think they are really good blueprints. And it shows like when you have a director who's passionate about a project, you should be able to give them that creative freedom. You know what I mean? Because then you don't get things like the Donner cut, you know? But then again, you want to get, you know, like the Lester cut and you get other creatives to take a stab at those kind of things. But I mean, is there anything else you want to say, my man, about Superman 2?
Nah, Superman 2 is like, well, when you think of like that 1-2 punch of Richard Donner's Superman and then Superman 2, whether it's the Donner cut or the Lester cut, it's just like that 1-2 punch of superhero cinema where it's just like, it's just perfect stuff. Like, you know, like yes, I stated I have issues with both versions, but that's just a small, like, trivial thing, and the whole outweighs, you know, whatever problem I have. Where it's just like I can overlook that because both versions to me, just, you know, the Donner cut more, but both versions to me are just like celebrate what superhero cinema should be, you know, and like the way it portrays the characters, it takes them seriously. You know, it gives them, you know, these dramatic moments. It takes them seriously. It's just a wonderful thing, you know. And Richard Donner, it was the blueprint of like how to portray superheroes in cinema. You know, before that, they would just like, you know, George Reeves, hi, I'm Superman, and I love that. But it was just like, you know, he gave Superman, like, where he was just looked upon as like, you know, this silly comic book character. He gave him dignity and depth, you know, and it's just like, you know, what, like, I know people love superhero movies and there are people who hate superhero movies. You know, like, oh, superhero movies are killing cinema, but it's like when you have something like this come along and it's wonderful, you know, it's just like they serve their purpose, not just in superhero movies, but cinema altogether. You know, and that's why a movie like Richard Donner's Superman and Superman 2 perseveres to this day, because it's like, you know, you have that bridging of superheroes, but also, you know, cinema. You know, it just comes together in this one unified fort where it's just like, this is a beautiful thing. And whether, like, you know, you love comic books or movies, I love comic books, but, you know, I'm a movie buff. You know, I will always take movies and comic books. You know, it just brings it all together in this complete like package for me, where it's just like both things I love in a unified fort, and it's just amazing. And, you know, that's Richard Donner who did it. You know, Richard Donner is just the king for that, and that's why he will always be the blueprint for superhero movies going forward. You know, not every director follows the blueprint, you know, and they just do their own thing and whatever. And it's like, fine, you know, you're good. You know, I know you got to play to that audience, but it's just like the ones who do, and they just, you know, it's just like you have this wonderful example to go forth, and God bless Richard Donner. That's all I can say. You know?
Yeah. I
God
do
bless
think
that man.
I think per Inside the Sequel fashion, this is a case where I do prefer the sequel more than the first, but I think the first is also like essential to watch.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, I like the Donner cut more. I recommend it. That's some preference, but yeah, I mean, other than that, Rob, I mean, you know, I think if anybody, I think most people have, but if just for some reason, if anybody hasn't listened to your awesome podcast, man, I mean, where can we tune in? Where can we get like a night? Where can we listen to a nice, soothing voice talk about movies and like burp and drink at the same time? And then we're like, shit, why don't we have like a glass of whiskey right now, listening on our, but you shouldn't be driving, but like you should be just sitting somewhere in the easy chair, just listening to the, like, you know, you talk about like Statham cinema and stuff.
Oh, absolutely. Like I definitely don't condone drinking and driving, but like I'm definitely one of the types of like, you know, if you enjoy podcasts, you know, sit down with a glass and listen to me talk whatever about movies. But of course, I have my main show, the Cinema Drunkies, with me and my brother from another Mac the All Star. Where we originally we were the Action Drunkies, where we talked about action movies, but then we changed to the Cinema Drunkies, where we talk about all movies. You know, because we just love cinema in general, so you know we want to be open to talking about everything. Of course, the Wrath of Stave is coming out. About the films of Jason Statham. And then I have You Could Have Been a Bloodfist movie about action films where we try to decipher could this have been a part of the Bloodfist series. I love that. I also got a podcast coming out with a great friend, Patrick Bartlett, a horror podcast. That'll be out later this year. And yeah, also you can find me on Twitter at the Cinema Drunkie as my main Twitter handle, but also at Bloodfist Pod for the Bloodfist podcast one, and at Wrath of Staith for the Statham one, and at Cinema Drunkies for my main podcast, the Cinema Drunkies. And yeah, shout out to all our dear friends, Mike Scott, who we mentioned quite a bit on this episode.
Yeah, I was a little drunk. I'm sorry. I usually don't bring him up very often.
No, I love Mike. I love that man. Also Lindsay Wilkins from Shock and Awe. I love her. Our boy Daniel Epler from Cobwebs podcast. I haven't talked to Daniel in a while, like on an episode. I love doing Cobwebs podcast. I need to I've been meaning to hit Daniel up. I'm like, hey, can we do another Cobwebs?
Yeah, slide in those DMs, man. Just hit him with some bald cinema, and he'll be all over it.
Well, I don't have to now because I just mentioned it on the show. So it's just like there. I just, you know, I haven't slid in his DMs in a while and shit. But now, like, he's gonna know, like, you know. But like, yeah, shout out to everybody, like, you know, in our circle, Anthony, Carmelita, Preston. I love Preston, great guy, great. And shout out to all my people on Action Twitter: Larry Sternshine, Chris Barreras, Andy Gorham, just Aaron Vargas, just all the great people, Like, yeah, and shout out to you for bringing me on to talk Superman. I always love talking Superman, and I appreciate you bringing me on here. Been a fan of your show for a while, so like I was excited to come on here and to talk Superman too. It was just, you know, the great thing here, and I really appreciate you.
Thank you. Just wait till you get on to the second time, man. And it's not about Superman. It's just my podcast. You're like, what the fuck is this kid doing? I can't wait to be on the Wrath of Statham podcast, where you're going to have me on with Jason Statham to talk about Expendables 3, right?
No. I think it was Transporter 2 when we discussed talking about.
Yeah, honestly, Transporter 2 fucking was a revelation. Like I was like,
Oh, yeah.
holy shit! I didn't realize how good Transporter 2 fucking is.
Oh yeah. I remember seeing that in theaters, and everyone went doggone fucking nuts over that.
Mhm,
Like
mhm.
that one was wild. Transporter 2 was wild. But yeah, we're definitely gonna hook up. We're definitely gonna hook up, and we're gonna talk that one.
Good. All right, that sounds good, man. Hey, you've heard it all here. We have Rob from the Cinema Drunkies podcast on talking about Superman 2, the Donner cut. What do people think about director's cuts, and what do they think about comic book movies, and where does Superman and Superman 2 stand in that conversation? Definitely give us some of your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like this podcast and share with your friends and everyone on the internet. If you have any questions, or if you would like to have an episode or be a guest on the show, I mean, always hit us up. Don't forget to email us at sequelpod@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter as well at sequelpod, or Inside Sequel, excuse me. And then you can follow me, Chris, at Hertastic_Chris. Don't forget to check out the YouTube channel at Hertastic Reviews as well. Rob, thanks again, man, for hopping on here again. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, thank you for having me, man. I really appreciate this, and I had a blast doing this. Definitely would love to do this again with you. And yeah, just to thank you wholeheartedly for having me on.
No problem, man. And if you think that I got more drunk than Rob on this episode, retweet. And if you think Rob got more drunk, just like the video, the link. So that way we know who was the actual Cinema Drunkie on this recording.
I was drinking before this, so maybe
pre-gaming. That's my problem. I don't pre-game before the recording. But other than that, if you aren't standing Christopher Reeve in his Superman movies, do you really care about cinema? Other than that, we'll see you next time.